So, welcome to all listeners of Echo Radio from Australia, North America, Europe, and all over the world. As every Tuesday, we will be with Dr. Gamal. This is our third broadcast. We have been talking about the beginning of Egyptian Reiki and all interesting subjects like ancient Egyptian cosmology, mummification, and the meaning of death for them. Today we will talking about Egypt's gods, the magic on ancient Egypt, healing, and the introduction of Egyptian Reiki. So, Dr. Gamal, welcome again, and I have to be honest, I can't wait to know more about ancient Egypt. How are you today?
Good morning, Anna. Thank you very much for having me here today in your interview. It is my pleasure once again to share my knowledge, my experience, and answer your questions. So I invite all the listeners and all the viewers to send the questions to social medias and Instagram, Facebook. So we are here open to receive all your inquiries and get to know more about these fabulous and magnificent civilization.
Okay, doctor. So let's start. Our first question is, what were the most important gods in ancient Egypt and what were their role?
Exactly. Well, so last week we were talking about a bit of the elements of the soul, the spiritual journey of the soul after death. And we kind of talk about a bit of the most important deities in the afterworld, which was Osiris, Anubis, and they were the most common gods related to the after-death journey. So today, I think it's important to get to know where do they come from, and I feel that that's your question because nowadays in most religions, well, except from Hinduism and some of the ancient religions, they have different gods and different deities. But for example, Christianity and Catholics, we have just a few of them, and just only one God, one creator. But for ancient Egyptians, they have many, and it was believed that they used to have hundreds of gods in the whole empire. So answering your question, most Egyptian gods represented one principal aspect of the world. So, for example, Ra was the sun god, and for example, Nut was the goddess of the sky. The characters of the gods were not only clearly defined, most were generally between benevolent, but the favor could not be counted. Now, some gods were spiteful and had to be placated. And that's where the ancient Egyptians used to do some rituals, such as Nid, Sahmet, Mut, yeah. But most of them, they were benevolent and they were willing to help humans. So according to ancient Egyptian ancient texts, it is important to get to know one of the first gods who was Amen, Amun, or Amun. So according to Egyptian philosophy or the Theban philosophy, Amun was the chief Theban deity whose power grew as the city Thebes grew from an unimportant village in the Old Kingdom. So later on, Amun became Amun Ra, and remember, Ra was the sun god. So sometimes they used to pair up, or they used to make couples, and they used to have their own springs and children. So, and one of the most important couples in ancient Egypt was Osiris and Isis. So Isis was an important figure in the ancient world. Isis was the wife of Osiris and the mother of Horus. Some people compare Isis with the Virgin Mary. So that was the Trinity, and the most famous Trinity in ancient Egypt: Isis, Osiris, and Horus. Isis was associated with funeral rites and said to have made the first mummy from the dismembered parts of Osiris. So according to the mythology, and Osiris was killed or murdered by his brother Seth. And then Isis revived him with magic. So she was one of the most important magical gods in ancient Egypt. And today we're going to be talking about magic. So it is important to acknowledge that Isis was the goddess of magic, of healing, and she made the first mummy. So the first mummy was Osiris, but Osiris couldn't be part of this existing world, so he became part of the afterworld, and he became the Lord of the Judgment. But before he left the earth, Osiris and Isis had a son, Horus, and Horus was his son, who actually was going to vengeance his death by fighting Seth and killing him. So remember that each god had a land in ancient Egypt. They were divided by different aspects of the land. Seth was meant to be in the Lord of the deserts, of the sands, while Osiris and Isis were ruling the fertile land of the Nile. So he was a bit of envious about his brother, so that's why he killed him. So I guess you might be asking yourself, but wait a second, like gods and goddesses used to have human emotions, and the answer is yes, because most of them, they could resemble to us as humans emotionally, but they were on a higher spiritual level. But even though they achieved higher spiritual levels of evolution, some of them, they used to have emotions like us. Yeah, so that's an important thing, because people can actually personify themselves in their deities in ancient Egypt. So just to tell your story a bit shorter, Isis was said to be the goddess that actually cried for her whole life, because she couldn't get back Osiris to live with her, but she helped Horus to become the king, and actually the first pharaoh, or the first god pharaoh of ancient Egypt. So after Horus, then we find the first human pharaohs, and it is actually said that between that period of time, between Horus and Narmer, who was the first pharaoh, there is a period of time where the semi-gods used to rule Egypt. So that's a very interesting story and concept, because there is some ancient texts that tell the story that the followers of Horus, which were semi-gods, half human and half gods, used to rule.
Doctor, are you there?
Yes, sorry, I just got a bit of a disconnection problem with my with my headphones, but I'm fine. So that's what happened. So yeah.
And can you tell us more about the reborn, or the situation between Isis and Horus and Osiris? Because I know that Isis reconstruction or rebuilt Osiris. Is that correct?
Osiris, yes.
Osiris,
yes,
excuse me.
Exactly. No, that's fine. So I was explaining you. So she actually counted, or with the help, or according to some myths, that she learned some of the magic from Ra. So actually, in part of the myth says that Isis went to see Ra, and actually she tricked him, because he was bitten by a snake, and the only person able to heal him was Isis, because she was the goddess of magic and healing. So, but in order to be healed, Ra, who was like the father of all the gods, the sun, he had to tell her his full name. So with his full name, because you know that in ancient Egypt, the gods and goddesses used to have several names, you used to know the full name of that person to actually get some of that healing properties, or some of that magic of each god. So she got those healing skills from Ra. And with those healing skills, she actually brought back together all the parts of Osiris. So Osiris was dismembered by his brother Seth. So all his part, he was broken apart in different parts, and all his limbs were moved to different parts of Egypt, to the different regions. So Isis brought them all back together, and she mummified, and that's where the first mummy come from. She mummified his body. She put it back together with the help of Nephthys, who was his sister, and with the help of Anubis, who is being said to be the son of Nephthys and Set. So that's why Anubis played an important role in the afterlife as well. So when the person crossed the door of the afterlife, the first god who encountered that soul is Anubis. And it's actually correlated to the first part of the myth, because Anubis is said to help, it's been thought that he actually helped Isis to recover the body of Osiris. So he was the embalmer god, one of the embalmers god in ancient Egypt.
And I know that it is that story. It's related to the sense, the beginning or the meaning. I don't know how to explain that, but I know that they show the sixth sense because Isis rebuilt 6 parts from Horus. Is it correct?
From Osiris. Yes.
Osiris.
Well,
sorry.
Exactly. It's there is a lot of myths according to that, but remember that after she actually gave birth, or after she revived Osiris, her son Horus was born. Yes. So it says that she was flying actually above Osiris' body, because remember that Isis was depicted with wings. Yeah. So she was flying above Osiris' body, and she conceived the seed of Horus inside her body, and the seed came from Osiris. So it is beautiful, because after she revived Osiris, from that rebirth, Horus was born. The seed of Horus came into Isis, and he was brought to life.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
So that is an important aspect of the myth. So even though here there isn't like a lesson that we all learn, that that when we do things with love, we get surprises, and also we get beautiful things from that. And I think that's the magic of Egyptian mythology. Even though it could be a myth, even though it could not be a reality, it may show us an important lesson that from love is born. So she conceived her son, and she protected her son until he became a more older age, because he was persecuted by Seth. He didn't want his rule to be over by the son of his brother. So this is an important part of the myth. But at the end, Horus defeated Seth, and he became the first pharaoh who united the land again, and a lot of peace was brought to ancient Egypt. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of years. Some people actually think that this actually happened, and that these gods were some of the first humans in the world, and that they were actually very tall. They were giants, and they came from the stars. There were people from. That's another part of the history, But according to mythology, this is what we know nowadays.
Okay. And in the last broadcast, we talked about balance and harmony. According to ancient Egyptians, what was the meaning and the importance of Maat, M-A-A-T, in healing?
Yes.
Because I think that it has a really strong connection with that.
Yes, absolutely. So this is an important concept I think we mentioned last time. And when the heart was waiting against the feather of truth, remember that the feather of truth is the feather of the goddess Ma'at. So she was one of the one of the most important goddess in the afterlife. So she was in the judgment hall, and her feather was waiting against the heart of the person. And actually the heart needed to be lighter than the feather. Yes. So that demonstrate that your heart was pure, and that you can move on into eternal life, into peace. into living a peace existence in the afterlife with the other gods and goddesses. So Ma'at represents that, represents justice, represents balance. And in healing, Ma'at represents that aspect of the human being, represents that you need to be balanced in all your masculine, feminine aspects, and you need to be true to your soul desire and soul goals. So, for example, there is a lot of people in the world now that they are forced to live an existence that their soul do not want or are not meant to be living. And that's why people is not happy. That's why people is depressed. That's why people is anxious, because they are not true with their soul desires and their soul goals, and they are not in balance. So here, the concept of balance means to be in a harmonious state of the mind, body, soul, and your soul true wishes. So remember that your physical self, and I think we talked about that last time, the jet or your physical body here is the vessel of your soul. But if your physical body is not doing what your soul is meant to be doing, then you become sick, you become sad, you become depressed. So that is the sadness of the soul personified in your physical body. And here is a concept that we need to understand for healing. And later on, if we're going to talk about Egyptian Reiki, that's the main purpose of Egyptian Reiki. Egyptian Reiki helps people to activate their physical bodies, their energetic centers, so that they can be connected to their soul and find their true soul wishes, desires, and your main role here in this existence.
So if for all our listeners, this is a good question. Can we understand the concept of healing as magic? Because it sounds like that. Or they have difference? What do you think?
Well, that's an excellent question. And remember that magic in ancient Egypt was considered as any other thing in the world. It was considered as heka. Magic was known as heka, and heka was known to be one of the primordial gods as well. But remember that the word heka comes from the word ka, and we knew that the ka is the energetic self or the vital force energy, is the aspect of the soul that carry the universal energy. So magic is the same as we call chi or prana nowadays. So the prana or the chi or the ki are concepts that Japanese and Chinese and Indians used to have for this type of healing. Is what we cannot see, but what we can feel and sense, and what we can manipulate and use for your healing and your own benefit. So this is the concept of magic in ancient Egypt. So when someone was sick or was with an illness, a person or an expert channeler of magic or heka or chi or ki, you may call it prana, the same thing, used to perform this magic or this healing energy on the person to help her or help him heal. So this is the concept. So it is not like the magic that we see in different movies or in Hollywood or in books, because actually that could exist. Yes, so there is different concept of energy manipulation. So that is if you tell me, okay, from your medical perspective point of view, what can you say to for example to define magic? So then you can say, okay, in my opinion, is the concept of energy manipulation. That's the concept of magic.
Okay, and does anybody can create and use heka, or do you have to be or to create or to prepare in some ways to use it as healing?
Yes. So that's a good question. So if you're telling me, okay, I want to use heka as in ancient Egypt, then you need to go through certain rituals. You need to go through certain rituals on initiation. So that's why the Egyptian Reiki bring you closer to the closest concept of heka or magic in the ancient world. I mean, it is impossible to get to channel the sad energy that ancient Egyptians used to channel in the past, because there are two different reasons here. The first one, the world at that time was in a different energy vibration. So at that time, energy was easier to channel, and people was easier to become more connected with their spiritual selves. And another part was that there used to be a process in ancient Egypt. So in order for you to heal with heka, you needed to be a priest, you needed to study, you needed to go to the per'ah, or the house of healing, the house of light, or you needed to have skills. So the only ones with those skills were the pharaohs and the family of the pharaohs, because I remember that it was said that the pharaohs were actually inherited all the knowledge from the ancestors, and the ancestors were the gods and goddesses. So when you are performing heka, you are becoming a channeler of energy, and you may be connecting to some of these ancient deities, gods or goddesses. Remember, you are not channeling the energy of the goddesses. No, you are using them as vehicles to channel the energy of the universal life force energy. And we talk about that. Remember, we talk about the Ha, the Ba, and the Ah. So remember that we're energetic bodies. But if we cannot activate those elements, we are not able to use heka or healing or magic.
Okay, we have many concepts here. So the first one, and that I want to know more about, is what about the temples? Because we know that Egypt is very famous about that nowadays also. So what did they use it for?
Well, that's an important question, because different temples, and they were built for different purposes, and they were built in different stage of the civilization. So the old kingdom, the new kingdom, the middle kingdom. So they had different capitals: Thebes, Memphis, Karnak. So all those temples, most of them, they were built for learning, and they were built so that the priests and priestesses can carry out their duties. And some of them, they were astronomical and geographically located in a specific region, so that they can be connected with the stars, with the rising of the sun, with the setting of the sun, with the constellations. So they needed to be in exact positions, like, for example, the same positions as the pyramid were built. They were not built randomly. They were on a specific location, so that they create an energetic vortex, so that they can actually amplify this heka or this energy. When you amplify this energy, you were achieving higher state of consciousness. So you were healing yourself, you were cleansing yourself, you were in a beautiful state of harmony or ma'at. But remember that these temples, they were also the only places where pharaohs and the higher priests can only go and pray to the gods and goddesses. And they used to make the offerings, the rituals. So just in a few period times of the year, some people were able to enter, but not many of them. So there were not such a temple as today. We go to the church and we pray. No, the only people that were able to do the offerings were the higher priests and priestesses. So the normal people used to go to temples and ask for the priests and priestesses to help them with the rituals. So they used to do all the tasks for the people in ancient Egypt. However, this could be varied, because in different periods of times, people were able at the very end of the civilization, when they were invaded by the Greeks and the Romans. They brought different costumes, different traditions, so they changed a bit. But the original purpose of the temple was connecting your physical self with higher spiritual and energetic realms.
And you mentioned about the House of Life. Can you tell us more about that? It was a temple also.
Yes. The House of Life actually was a place in ancient Egypt, and where priests learned to read and write. It was the place where the scribe school was held, and the place where children of the rich and wealthy people of the elite went to school to learn all the different sides: economics, laws, astronomy, geography. The house of life was the like the interpretation where the interpretation of the dreams was taught. And the house of life was not a monastery; it was an educational center. As scholars and students at the House of Life made copies of the Book of the Dead, and they learned, the hieroglyphs language and how to use them. So it was a place where they were actually learning, in constant learning, where they used to discuss different matters. The pharaoh was able to enter this place as well, where the children of the pharaohs were able to grow and learn. Remember that the pharaoh could have different mistresses, or one queen but different mistresses, but they could have as many children as they want. So all of these, the wealthy people used to go there to learn all the traditions, the history of the civilization.
But just for wealthy people, not normal people.
Most of it, yes. No, they remember that they have a stratified society. They were still like a pyramid. So at the top, it was the pharaoh, that then hired priests, and then at the bottom, the normal people with different tasks. Mm-hmm. So when the normal, I don't know if I've told you this, but there is a myth, and there is actually an Egyptian god called Nun. So this god actually was the person in charge of creating the ka, the energetic body of every human. So it was said that he had a potter wheel, and he can actually mold the soul of the person and bring him back to life. So according to this myth, this ancient Egyptian god had already knew what was your role. So for example, if you were coming here to make bread or to crop the land, you already knew that, and your role was to be in that position. So everything in ancient Egypt was stratified, so that everything was organized, was in perfect balance. So that's why there was no such a thing as crimes like nowadays, because there is wealthy people, no wealthy people, and that's what people rob or kill, because they want material things. But in ancient Egypt, there was not such a thing, because your soul knew that your role was this, and you needed to do this. And there was a perfect balance and harmony. So that's what everyone respected: your role, your duty, and what your soul was meant to be doing in this planet. But nowadays it's different, because everyone has free will. A different concept. In ancient Egypt, the souls were born with a purpose, because the world was growing and needed to learn. But nowadays, everyone has a free will. But that could be positive. That could have the positive things, and that could also have negative consequences.
Yes. It's like they have a specific role, and they know, and they accept it, and that's it.
Exactly.
And that they can improve in their role, but they cannot want to move on. Okay. So
exactly. So
please.
Yes. So for example, no one could be a pharaoh. So you have to have royal blood to be a pharaoh. So your father, your descendants, your ancestors were pharaohs, or the same as priests and priesthoods. But with priests and priesthood was a bit different, because they could also leave the temple, the house of life, and search for young people with skills to be priests and priesthoods, and to be priests and priestesses, to be part of the priesthoods. Because remember that the priesthoods, they were very close to the pharaoh, and they had all the knowledge. But so everyone could become a priest, unless the priests, they used to go out and search for those younger apprentices and the most intelligent to become in that position.
Okay, so normal people can be a priest.
Could, yes, exactly. But only priests exactly. If they were chosen, if higher priests chose them to become a priest, they were given the chance, so they had the opportunity.
Okay, and can you tell us more about the role of the priest in the society, in the ancient Egyptian society?
Yes. So according to, there were different type of priests. So priests had also categories. They were also classified in different roles. So there was the priest for the daily rituals. There was the priest that was the doctor. So again, the doctor in ancient Egypt was the priest, because the priest, they had all the knowledge, scientific, mathematics, healings. So they had all the skills. There was a priest that was close to the pharaoh. There was a priest that was almost like an engineer. Or they were used to work with the engineers. So the builders, the engineers, was a different category, but they were part of the elite as well. The generals of of the army, they were also part of the elite, and some of them maybe have chosen from the normal people of the rest of the empire, but others were chosen with a specific reasons. They were part of the elite of the wealthy people too. But getting back to the point of your question, so priests had different roles. So in the temple, there was not just only a temple like a church. We're talking about a huge and immense complex. So almost like like a quarter of the city. A citadel was a whole temple. That was the house of life. The house of life was not only a house or like a school. You may also compare it like a university campus.
Yes.
Like if you go to Yale or to Oxford or to Harvard, a huge complex, that was the house of life or the Per Act. So it was a massive complex with different structures, different buildings, and they have a building for studying, a building for rituals. And so it was all divided.
So I think that the word holistic can become from that concept of the priest, because they
Exactly.
had all the knowledge and all the things to healing people.
Yes, and that's the concept that we need to be clarified. So in ancient Egypt, healing integrate everything. The physical self, so they use herbs, they use chiropractor manipulation, physical, they use surgeries as well. The priests knew how to perform a surgery, but when they were doing a surgery, they were also using heka. So other priests were praying and were sending energy to the person who was in the surgery process. So that's important, and they integrate everything. They integrate the physical body, the mental, the spiritual. So you were not only giving a pill, you were also healed energetically.
And if we want to talk about Reiki, nowadays the Reiki, as we know, is different from the ancient Egyptian, or is it the same, or it has improved?
It is different. It is different because we're living in a different world. Our world has changed. It's not the same as in 4 or 5 or 10,000 years. It has changed. The energy around us has changed. We are dealing with different problems. So remember that the Earth, the planet, is one living being. The energy of the planet has grown, has changed, because it needs to evolve. So now we need to channel universal energy in a similar way that ancient Egyptians, as we call it Egyptian Reiki, because we are awakening the elements of the soul, but we are applying that to this life and to these current circumstances.
Okay.
Yes. So it is kind of like a bringing back that knowledge and applying that to this life.
Okay. So just a reminder to all our listeners, we are in our social network. We can find us as Echo Radio in YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and also in our website, www.echoradio.com. And please, Dr. Gamal, how people can find you in your social networks?
Exactly. So I think the easiest way that people can find me is #DrGamalPaez. or you may find me with in my Instagram. You may find me as Dr. Dr. Paez underscore alternative underscore MED. But the easiest way is hashtag Dr. Paez in Facebook, Instagram, or in my website as well. So my website is www.holistic-alternative-medicine.com.au.
So this is not finished yet. So be with us, because we have more questions about this amazing topic. And we were talking about heka and all the energy and how we can activate, or the people can activate. What were benefits of heka if you can activate it? What do you think that we have to treat nowadays as humanity? Because
well, for me, when I started teaching Egyptian Reiki, I started to teach one part of it, which was the Sahem or the Saishim, and is well known worldwide. And there are many masters and beautiful masters. And there is a beautiful master that taught me the Sahem, and I'm grateful for him to having taught me that. But there is my soul with the awakening of the Sahem started an awakening process, and then I became an Egyptian Reiki master when I recovered all the wisdom and the knowledge of my past. Because, I don't know if I mentioned this before, I feel that my soul comes from those ancient times, and that I have a purpose here, and that I'm teaching people here. So after remembering that, and after healing, because there were memories of the past and situations that needed to be healed, I brought back all that knowledge, and now I'm a channeler so that the people can actually connect with their ancient selves, with their ancient knowledge or the wisdom that is within themselves. So the heka, or I prefer to call it Egyptian Reiki. Heka was the word that they used in ancient Egypt. So I prefer to call it Egyptian Reiki. The Egyptian Reiki nowadays help you to connect yourself with your soul so that you can truly know your soul main objective or main purpose in this life. It would also help you to heal, open up all your chakras energetically, and become spiritually part of your soul in a constant growing process. So this does not stop. You are in a continuous growing process. So it's like opening the door for you to the possibilities of become a better person, to evolve energetically and spiritually, and to channel universal life force energy for balancing your energy and helping others to heal and balance the energy. That's the main purpose.
And what do you think that we have to treat nowadays in our society as humanity? Because you have told us that the world has changed. So how do you think?
So the first thing is that people needs to know, and people needs to learn, that we are not just physical beings. We are energetically and spiritual beings.
Okay.
We need to bring back that connection, that individual connection with your soul. So here, there is no religion. There is no one God. There is no deities like in ancient Egypt. Here, what matters is you and your connection with your soul. And how can you bring to this life that knowledge, that wisdom, and help you heal and find your purpose. Help you find your purpose, because most of people in the world is lost. They don't know what to do. And this is understandable, because when we are born in this earth, it's like all our memories are erased. We don't remember the past. So with this healing, or with connection with Egyptian Reiki, your soul is able to remember those memories, to bring back those memories, to remembering who you are, what's your main purpose. So most of the souls who are born in this planet have already been born in the past. So it is important sometimes to remember that, so that you can get to know why you are here. What is your purpose? Find purpose in your life. And also that the purpose is for helping others and helping the planet too. Being more conscious about the people around you and about this environment. Look after this environment and live and bring you back to the balance of your emotions. Remember, we're talking about the mad. So not let ourselves be driven out by these emotions like anger, frustration, envy, those negative emotions, and become one solid aspect of yourself. So people need to learn that, to control their emotions, to connect with the spiritual selves, to connect with the planet. That's the main purpose of this healing, and one of my main purposes is to teach people to do that.
I think it's a very important message for all of us, and I think most of us has to be conscious and to know more about that message that you have talking about, because I think that humanity has forgot for a moment, and that's the importance that your purpose in our world is. That I think it's a beautiful message.
It's like a reminder. I'm here to remind the people about what they need to do, what's the important thing, and also to think of themselves, to think of their happiness. If you are not doing something that you are not happy, then you're not going to give happiness to the other people. So it's about remember that everyone can be happy and achieve happiness. So great. I think it's fantastic. This is fantastic. As we were talking of heka and ancient Reiki, we know that in ancient Reiki it has some benefits in the health of people. Can you tell us more about these benefits if you are treating in ancient Reiki? Yes. So Egyptian Reiki has many benefits, and when you are doing Egyptian Reiki, and when you are helping healing someone, you are also healing. You are becoming a channeler of energy. So the benefits of receiving the energy and channeling pass through you and help you align yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Bring you balance, bring you peace. And that's one of the most important effects of Egyptian Reiki. People say, I feel in peace, I feel in balance, I feel grounded. That's the most important aspect, to ground the energy, because when the energy is scattered all around, then it's difficult for you to think clearly and to actually act with good emotions. So that's one of the main benefits, to balance your emotional self and spiritual self. Because if you are scattered and you are imbalance, then your physical body become ill. Then you become sick.
And in ancient Egyptian, they were talking about soul, emotion, mental, and all these concepts in our world, in Occidental world. We can confuse or think that it can be synonymous. What were the difference between soul, mental, feelings, and...
Exactly. So I think that the people can understand this better when they experience for themselves the situations. So you are connecting with your soul when you are praying, regardless of your religion or belief. When you are praying and when you are crying, you are opening your heart and connecting to your soul. That's the experiencing of making that connection with the soul. That's your soul speaking through you. when you are meditating, when you are doing yoga, and you feel that you are uplifted, that it's like you are disconnected from the world and you are happy inside, then you are connecting with your soul. That's your soul. When you are running, you are experiencing a physical change in your body. You are sweating, your muscles are in movement, you feel tired after a while. But then if you are able to transcend that, you can actually connect with your energetic self and you can feel the energy moving around. So you are connecting with your energetic self. So we have different aspects. We have the physical self, we have the mental, which is the mind. When our mind is running 100 miles per hour, we're thinking about tomorrow, the past, that's the mind. Mm-hmm. When our heart is open, when we are crying because you see someone that you haven't seen in a while, that's your emotional self. When you are giving a hug, when you are giving a kiss to someone that you love, that's your emotional self. So here we are dividing the concepts of ourselves, but the most complex thing is that we are all in one thing, in one vessel, in one glass. So sometimes it's difficult to put apart, to separate, because it's impossible unless we die. When we die, then we separate. And that's what the ancient Egyptians believed. You know, they knew that the physical body was there, but the Ka or the Ba was not there. The Ka might be there, but the Ba, who was like a flying bird, was moving to the other side. So that's a concept I think we need to know, because people, it's not like, you know, we come here to Earth to have a family and that's it. No, there is a purpose. You know, humanity has a purpose. Every person has a purpose. You came to this life to learn something, to heal, to experience new things, to grow, and to do something positive to your society.
Okay, that's very huge knowledge and huge. Yes. You are thinking all the time about you were talking about, and I want to ask you, as a doctor, as a professional holistic doctor practicing Reiki nowadays, what is the most common illness that you treat in your patients?
Yes, look, a lot of sadness, a lot of depression, anxiety, and insomnia. So people is not able to sleep. Mm-hmm. People can't sleep, and people can't sleep because they are imbalanced. Their mind is disconnected with their soul through wishes, with their soul desires. So here the big message is we need to see things beyond the physical aspect of the self. We need to start seeing things from a spiritual perspective point of view. So here the message is, you don't have to work because you have to make money. Wait a second, we have to pay debts, yes? But if you are here, if your soul decide or chose to born here or reborn here, because you are able to make money and work and adapt to the circumstances, but following your spiritual self. So it is able to be happy and make money following your true soul wishes and desires. So remember when we were talking about the god Num, who created the souls and the Ka, and every person has a role. So when you are following that role, you are happy. So your soul already know that role, but when you are born here, you need to find out again that role. So with whatever you are making, you are happy and you are making money and you are making a good life. And everyone has the possibility. But the problem is with other people, they work with their ego and they are driven by the emotions such as become more, how do you say that? More dragged to the money, and they separate their spirit with their physical self, you know, and they take advantage of other people and they exploit them. Yes. In many ways. So that's a huge problem because there is no balance. Remember that in ancient Egypt there was a pharaoh, there was a figure. So people used to adore and in a good way respect the pharaoh because they knew that the pharaoh, their representative, the pharaoh was the representative or representation of the whole people, the whole world, the empire. The same as in China, the emperor represented all the wishes of the person. But here, there are many countries where people are not happy with the governors, with their presidents, because they don't represent the true wishes or desires. So we are living on an imbalanced and unjust society. There is no justice, there is no balance. So there is a big challenge, but I think people can make it. Every person can make it.
I love your answer because I was telling you doctor, and I was expected an answer like I am treat I don't know, a flu or a illness, a physical illness, but your answer is completely different, and I think it's amazing that you were talking and you has show the purpose of your professional life, and that's the consequences that we are thinking why I'm here, why I'm doing this, why I have to learn something, or if I need to change something in my life. So just to put in context with this subject to all or our listeners, I would like to ask you how a normal people like me can think, okay, I need to go to your to take your services as a doctor. How we can know that really I need help from you?
And this is a big yes. This is a message for everyone. I feel like I'm not the only person. I'm only one person in the world that I'm helping people. But there are a few people like me that are healers and excellent healers and good healers. But the best healer is the one that can show the truth of that person, that can help that person to see clearly through their emotions, mind, and soul, and make that connection with the soul, and get to teach the people that the root of the illness or the disbalance is within themselves, in the way they think, in the way they act, and they need to realize that. And remember, not everyone is prepared for doing that. Some people actually get upset because you're telling them the truth, because they don't want to open that box and get to know the true selves and accept that and work with that. But the most important thing is accepting that you have something inside that needs to heal, and be humble with that. Be humble and respect your soul journey, because we're not talking about one life. Your soul might be ill or crying for different experience in the past, in this life, or in other lives. So the amount of things that you are carrying on your back might not only be from this life, but from other lives. So here, it's like it's a process. You don't heal with a click. You need to heal with different sessions, with different alternatives, and looking the best for you. So that's why there are different healers, different doctors, because they use different tools and techniques. But the best doctor is the one that connects with the heart of the patient, of the person, and help them to heal not only physically, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
Okay. So, doctor, I'm so sorry, but time flies when you are learning and when you are so interested in this amazing topic. But we don't have more time. We need a next broadcast in the next week, and I hope that all people that are listeners, they will be with us next week. So, just to say goodbye to our audience. What do you tell us more about this amazing topic?
Well, I think we're going to continue talking about this, about ancient healings and ancient Egyptians, and go beyond that. I feel like there is a lot of questions. I invite people to send the questions to our social media, to Echo Radio, to my website. Send all the media, all the questions and inquiries. Just to finish up, I think next week the program will be in Spanish. We're gonna do a program in Spanish because people have been asking me, please do the interview in Spanish. So I think we're gonna do a special program next week in Spanish about all of this, and we'll be back in English in 2 weeks' time. So please send us all the questions, all your doubts, your inquiries, and we are going to be happy. We're going to be talking about all this, and we'll be happy doing that. So thank you. A big pleasure. Take care, all of you, and see you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Gamal, and see you next week in Echo Radio. Bye.
Bye.